we're not going to stand with you. While President Donald Trump is helping Iranian people to take down Islamic regime, is a threat to the world. Not only Iranian people, who killed 40,000 of Iranian people this bloody regime, who is a threat to America too, because for many years they said death to America. The ideology is to destroy America, and they even tried an attempt to assassinate President Donald Trump. Democracy, on the other hand, is not standing with the Iranian people. They're standing against Iranian people's interests. They're trying to attack Donald Trump and try to stop him. So if you're an Iranian who lives in America, that's your job to change your registration. And if you haven't been registered anywhere, I will write it in caption how you can do that. Register yourself as a Republican, specifically in blue states, to show them that we have power. We're standing with President Donald Trump because he's doing the right thing. He's seeing the future. He sees that Islamic regime is a threat to America too. And that's so funny because Democrats don't want to even acknowledge that President Donald Trump just helped eliminate one of the biggest dictators in history. They don't want to give a credit to him. It's okay. We Iranian people should stand with President Donald Trump because he's doing the right thing. Even if you're not Iranian and you understand what I'm saying, go ahead and change your registration from Democrats to Republican. I'm asking all the content creators, please make a video like this, ask your followers to do so. Love you guys. Iran is going to be free and the world is going to be a better place with the help of President Donald Trump.
And to the extent there's any possibility of one anytime soon, Israel just made that a lot more difficult today by assassinating Ali Larijani, Iran's top security official, who's previously advocated diplomacy with Iran and come under criticism for he's previously advocated diplomacy with the U.S. and he's taken heat for that inside the Iranian establishment for having that position. And Israel claims today that its forces assassinated him in an airstrike, which I actually believe. I don't think Israel would say that if it wasn't true. They usually don't claim to have assassinated people at that high level unless they're very sure that they did. So if Israel's claims are true, and I think they are, then Israel has just made an off-ramp to this war, if one was even possible, a lot more unlikely. And it's clear why. Trump went to war on Israel's behalf. Israel told him that after he did so, the government of Iran would collapse, the people would come out in the streets and praise Trump as a hero. That hasn't happened because Iranians actually have self-respect and they want to defend their sovereignty. And so given that this is not going the way Trump was led to believe it would go, Israel, wanting to keep this war going, will do anything it can to sabotage any possible opening for peace. So that's why I think it targeted.
پای پاسداران انقلاب اسلامی قرار گرفت و تا به حال غیر عملیاتی گشته و به سمت مبدأ اولیه خود حرکت کرد. دشمنی که مرگ سربازانش را ضربه خفیف مغزی اعلام می کند باید هم استیصال در ناو جرالد فورد و آتش سوزی در آن و بر جای گذاشتن مجروح در طی خود درگیری را نادیده بگیرد و اکنون با همین توجیه انهدام سوخرسانش تحت عنوان نقص فنی عنوان می شود. تعداد نقص فنی، ضربات مغزی خفیف و خود درگیری های
Okay, if you're anti-war with Iran and you think you're standing up against Israel's war or another pointless Middle East mess, you should listen to this, because after Iraq and Afghanistan, I actually understand that. But no one tells you who wins when you say no war with Iran. The IRGC is not a normal government, you see. It's a gang sitting on top of 80 million people. Iranians are basically hostages in their own country, and this gang survives by keeping the whole region on fire. They arm militias that shoot at our troops and our bases. They back groups that hit our allies and play games with the shipping lanes that decide what you pay for gas. And while all that is happening, they're pushing their nuclear program so they can keep doing it with a nuclear umbrella. At the same time, they've poured a fortune into propaganda, state TV, independent outlets, podcasts, influencers, fake experts, bot farms, and the message is always the same. Iran isn't really a threat. Israel is running the show. America is being dragged into someone else's war. Now look at Joe Kent. In 2023, right after Hamas massacred Israelis, he put out a press release blasting Biden for enabling Iran and its proxies. He promised that he wouldn't send 1 cent to Hamas and that he'd make sure that Israel get the weapons it needed. Back then, Iran was a huge problem. Now he walks out in the middle of a war and suddenly says Iran wasn't an imminent threat and this is basically Israel's war. That doesn't look brave to me. It looks like he's repeating exactly what the regime wants Americans to believe. And you see the media version of this too. Tucker Carlson gives Iran's president a soft interview, lets him tell millions of Americans that Iran wants peace, that Israel and the lobby are the problem, that America is being manipulated with almost no pushback. That clip runs on regime channels as proof that even American media agrees with him. And now he's posting that the CIA was reading his texts with people in Iran and is trying to frame him as a foreign agent. He's basically admitting himself that he was in direct contact with regime circles while pushing their story here at home. So here's the uncomfortable part. When you post, this is just Israel's war, Iran isn't a threat, we should stay out of it, whose script are you actually reading from? Because it doesn't come from a neutral place. It lines up perfectly with what a terror cartel in Tehran has spent years and more serious money trying to make you believe. I'm not asking you to love war. You don't have to. But if what you care about is your safety, your money, and your kids not fighting a much bigger war 10 years from now under a nuclear shadow, then you can't just give the IRGC a pass because someone told you this is Israel's fault. A campaign that targets a cartel that has held people hostage, killed 50,000 people in 2 days, keeps attacking our troops, threatening our economy, pushing for nuclear leverage is not the same thing as invading a random country on bad intel. You can be skeptical of war in general and still understand that letting this cartel grow stronger and richer all
We're on plan to defeat, destroy, disable all of their meaningful military capabilities at a pace the world has never seen before. But it's not just that Iran doesn't have a functioning air force, or that their entire navy is at the bottom of the Persian Gulf, or their missile force is shrinking daily. Even more importantly, they also don't have the ability to build more. That's the most important component I'd like to emphasize today. Soon and very soon, all of Iran's defense companies will be destroyed. For example, as of 2 days ago, Iran's entire ballistic missile production capacity, every company that builds every component of those missiles, has been functionally defeated, destroyed. Buildings, complexes, and factory lines all across Iran destroyed. So we're shooting down and destroying what missiles they still have in stock, but more importantly, ensuring that they have no ability to make more. Their production lines, their military plants, their defense innovation centers defeated.
According to Israel's defense minister, Israel Katz, top Iranian official Ali Larijani is dead. He was killed in a strike overnight. According to Israel's defense minister, this was probably the most significant strike, you could describe it, in the past week and a half, as the Israelis and the Americans are going after the structure of Iran's regime. Larijani leaks a de facto leader in the aftermath of the killing of Iran's former supreme leader and uncertain questions about Mojtaba Khamenei, the man who was elected to be the next supreme leader. Larijani was serving as the secretary to Iran's Supreme National Security Council. I can also report overnight the Israelis, in a separate strike, killed the top commander of Iran's Basij forces. This is a wing of the IRGC. His name is Ghulam Reza Soleimani, and he was responsible for commanding the crackdown on protesters earlier this year across Iran. An official tells me this morning that over a dozen Basij officials were with him when that strike took place, taking out this top commander. It comes as the Israelis have launched a series of airstrikes alongside their American counterparts across Iran over the past 24 hours. You can see some of these strikes on Sunday, this new video released by the IDF. They are expected to intensify and increase in the hours and days ahead.
You said Joe Kent.
Did you know that Russia and China are quietly helping Iran in this war? Well, as per the U.S. intelligence reports, Chinese satellites are giving the exact location of U.S. and Israeli military assets, while Russian intelligence is assisting to find exact position of American warships and aircraft in nearby seas. And that's why in Jordan, a $300 million Thayed radar was destroyed by an Iranian missile with surprising accuracy. At sea, the USS Abraham Lincoln was engaged by several Iranian ballistic missiles and drones, forcing the carrier group to reposition to a far safer location. In Qatar, an early warning radar system worth more than
No sé si saben, señorías del Partido Popular, que estamos en guerra. Estamos en guerra. Una guerra que es criminal y que es ilegítima. Una guerra, señorías, que ustedes no han condenado. Siguen en el mismo Partido Popular de Aznar, los hombres de la guerra, hace 23 años. A pesar de que el pueblo español y las votantes del Partido Popular están en contra de la guerra. Sus votantes, señora García, son mucho más decentes políticamente que ustedes, señorías.
Nobody will say this in the mainstream media because it justifies what President Trump did. Nobody in the mainstream media will tell you after Midnight Hammer, when we blew up all the enrichment facilities, they went back at it again, thus epic fury. What Witkoff said on your show changes everything. To my friends at the White House, every American should know the facts. You can have your opinion about President Trump all you want. If he had not acted, within 2 weeks, they would have had enough weapons material to make 10 bombs. Donald Trump acted decisively. God bless the fact that he did. If he had failed to act, we'd all be living with a Ayatollah still alive, enough weapon grade material to make 10 bombs. That's what's at stake here. The liberals
leading their country into a war. Do you have any questions for Pete or Steve? Come on up. Mr. Wickoff? Steve, come on up.
Is there still space to do a deal with whatever is left of the Iranian government?
I think there is. I think that's going to be up to the president. That's what I think. But they didn't seem to be very amenable in those first set of negotiations. You heard what I said. I said we have the inalienable right to enrich. They bragged about having 60% enriched fuel, enough for 11 bombs. And they told me and Jared, we're not going to give you diplomatically what you couldn't take militarily. So, I think they're going to need a change of attitude.
What sort of thing do you want to see in a deal? I mean, do you think we have maxed out negotiating leverage at this point?
I think the president has proved that we have.
Iran today accused the U.S. of
negotiating leverage, maybe maximum, but we're not looking to settle. They'd like to settle. We're not looking to settle.
Iran accused the British government has now offered use of some. The British government has offered use of some bases now, and you had previously said you were very disappointed in
About the 2 aircraft carriers.
I mean, about British bases.
Did you see my response that I just put out? I just put out a response. Give me the offer to send 2 aircraft carriers. Maybe, but they're not sure. I just put out a response to them. I said, we don't need them. It's not the right time. It would have been nice to have had them 2 weeks ago, but the response I put out, I think, says it very well for you.
Iran today accused the U.S. of hitting a desalination plant in Iran, and they said that might open the door to other strikes on infrastructure, non-military infrastructure.
Also open the door to other strikes against them.
Look,
let me tell you about Iran. They are among the most evil people ever on earth. They cut babies' heads off. They chop women in half. What they did, take a look at October 7th. Take a look at what they've done over the last 47 years. So I know nothing about a desalinization plant other than to say, if they're complaining about a desalinization plant, we complain about the fact that they shouldn't be chopping babies' heads off, okay?
Zvikov, have you communicated to the Russians not to send targeting information and other assistance to the Iranians?
Strongly said that.
And do you believe that they are?
I hope they're not.
And do you see any evidence?
We don't know, but it's not doing very well. If they are, it's not helping much. You take a look at what's happened to Iran in the last week. If they're getting information, it's not helping them much.
Well, what would it mean to you if they were? I mean, even if it's not helping the Iranians particularly much, it's still involving themselves in a conflict that they're not.
I guess they'd say we do it against them, wouldn't they? Wouldn't they say that? We do it against them. I don't know. Look, they can give all the information that they want, but people they're sending it to are overwhelmed. Russia would be overwhelmed too. Anybody would be overwhelmed. We have the greatest military on earth, and I built it in my first term, and unfortunately, I'm forced to use it now. But when you look at what we did with Venezuela, when you look at what we did with the B-2 bombers, it was a very big moment because Iran was going to have a nuclear weapon within 2 or 3 weeks, and that stopped it, and it stopped it cold. And you ask about maybe going back and getting that, something could happen at the right time.
Is Iran running out of missiles and drones?
Yeah, I think so.
Those counterattacks to continue indefinitely?
Not only
Is this Iranian general incredibly lucky, or is he an Israeli spy? For the past year and a half, Ismail Qaani seems to have miraculously escaped death while everyone around him has been killed. As head of the Quds Force, the Revolutionary Guard unit responsible for external operations, his survival of Israeli-American action has fueled suspicion. In October 2024, he was reported dead after a drone strike in Lebanon, where he was meeting with Hezbollah officials. But a few days later, to everyone's surprise, he reappeared at the funeral of a senior military official. In June 2025, Ismail Qaani was again reported killed among several Iranian dignitaries. But once again, he returned from the dead when he appeared all smiles at a pro-regime demonstration. This was enough to fuel speculation on social media. Israeli internet users put up posts to ironically thank the man they described as an agent working for Israel. The latest events have added to the confusion. The attack on February 28th killed most of Iran's military high command, but what about Ismail Qaani?
Some sources claim that he did not attend the meeting. Others say that he left the premises a few minutes before the first bombings. In any case, there is no news of him.
En tout état de cause, on n'a aucune nouvelle de lui.
Among the Israeli army's targets, only 2 officials are still believed to be alive, including Ismail Qaani. Mossad is known to recruit at the highest levels among its adversaries. Could the Iranian general be one of them? The Israeli Secret Service denied this in a message on X. Qaani is not our spy. But Mossad would not have said anything different if Qaani were one of its own, keeping the speculation alive.
פה עם שיר ושיר. איזה
תודה רבה.
תודה, תודה לך.
תודה רבה.
תודה לך. טוב, קצת לספוג שמש. תודה לכם. של מי הכלב? שלך. איזה סוג זה?
נענית, ישראלית.
נענית ישראלית, כל הכבוד. טוב, גם לא מגיע קצת.
ישראלית אמיתית.
יאללה, לכולכם מגיע. כן, כן. יצאתם להתעורר קצת?
כן.
יפה מאוד. תראה, על ירושלים, יש משהו יותר יפה מזה?
אין על ירושלים.
אין על ירושלים, אין, נהדר.
הוא השתגע מזה.
תשמע, אני זוכר את זה.
אתה זוכר? קוראים לו גיא.
זה היה במטוס, אוקיי, תמסרו לו דש. איזה יופי. שלום. שלום לכם. גם אתם יצאתם קצת להתעורר?
קצת להתעורר. כמובן שיש מרחב מוגן במקום כזה.
מרחב מוגן, איפה את יודעת?
ממש שמה, בטח. א' ב' זה לבדוק.
כמה צעדים מכאן, נכון?
כמה צעדים.
יופי, זה הכי חשוב.
אפשר לנצח ואנחנו נשמור על עצמנו.
מצוין, זה בדיוק.
חד משמעי.
את אמרת הכי טוב. הציבור מבין את העניין. אבל הנה הפרט הכי חשוב, איך קוראים לך?
שיר.
מה ששיר אמר, ואת?
שיר גם.
יש לנו שני שירים כאן. מה ששיר ושיר אמרו זה הדבר המרכזי. צריך להבין, זה דורש אורך רוח, אבל זה גם אפשר לפעמים לצאת לרוח. להתאוורר.
Yeah, this is the whose ox is gored effect. I mean, I've seen it with me during, my tenure in the administration, where they'll pick some right-wing radio host or podcaster they hate, who they called a conspiracy theorist or a nut job. And the minute he says something against someone they hate, Donald Trump or in my case me, they'll be like respected voice in the conservative movement. They do this all the time. You're going to see this with Joe Kent in the coming days. Listen, Joe's decorated history of service is beyond reproach, and his sacrifice with his family is just unspeakable. I don't even like to think about
his
it.
wife, who passed,
however,
who was killed.
Yeah, I mean, there was her name is emblazoned on a plaque in a facility I can't really talk about, and when you read the story there, it's a tough story to read. But again, as I've said with other. Yeah, the sacrifice is beyond reproach. That doesn't mean that this current opinion is any more fact-based, because it's not. I'm really sorry, Laura. I mean, I read probably a lot more intelligence than he did, because they don't have a law enforcement function, the National Counterterrorism Center. They're an analytical clearinghouse. They're valuable. However, I had access to just about everything. And how you could come to the conclusion that the Israelis did it and there was no imminent threat here? Really? What about the anti-ship ballistic missiles, the drone program, 440 kilograms of 60% enriched nuclear material, their constant death to America chance? I mean, that's called evidence. In some limited circles, we call that, a clue. I mean, I don't know at what point you thought this wasn't an imminent threat after you've read a lot of the stuff I read. And by the way, that's just the open source stuff we can talk about on the air. I promise you, the president, I promise you, has a bevy of material that if he could do the Men in Black thing and erase your mind tomorrow, if he told you right now, you would come to the imminent threat conclusion in a snap.
He also is trying to give President Trump advice about how to conduct the war. That's a little bit like seeking the advice of a nun about sex. Sir Keir Starmer is the last person you would want to go to advise you about how to have a military confrontation. He's the kind of guy that he'll want to quote, if you're in the middle of a bar fight, he'll want to stop and quote Socrates. That's what this is, a bar fight. He also is trying to give President Trump advice about how to conduct the war.
How angry are you?
I am angry, of course.
With Hezbollah right
I am angry with Hezbollah and Israel and Iran. But Hezbollah more, you know why?
Why?
Because they are Lebanese. They should be Lebanese. They are not. They are hurting us. They are hurting our homes, our children.
It's ordinary Lebanese. How angry are you?
I am angry, of course.
With Hezbollah right
I am angry with Hezbollah and Israel and Iran. But Hezbollah more, you know why?
Why?
Because they are Lebanese. They should be Lebanese. They are not. They are hurting us. They are hurting our homes, our children.
It's dragged.
President Trump has not ruled out boots on the ground in Iran. Are you afraid of a U.S. invasion in your country?
No, we are waiting for them.
You are waiting for the U.S. military to invade the ground troops?
Yes, because we are confident that we can confront them, and that would be a big disaster for them.
So you're saying that Iran is ready and willing to take on the U.S. military if there were to be ground troops?
Well, we were ready for this war even more than the previous war. So you can see, the quality of our missiles, how much they are upgraded after the last war, because we learned lots of lessons. And we are prepared for any other eventuality, even, a ground invasion. So our soldiers are prepared for any scenario. When I said that we are waiting for them, it didn't mean that we are waiting for continuation of the war. No, but we have prepared ourselves to confront with any scenario, with any eventuality, any possibility, and we know that we can handle that.
'71 to 2021, and it asked what were the consequences of those sanctions, and we murdered 38 million people. 38 million people. The amount of havoc we have wrought on the Middle East in recent years.
They're still registering for the draft, aren't they? Like that's the logical conclusion to the direction that we're heading in right now, unless we make some serious changes.
I mean, I've already heard rumors that Fifth Group is going to be sending guys to Iraq because of the escalated situation with Iran now.
Yeah. I mean, most Americans aren't aware of it. Our troops in Iraq and Syria have been attacked 150 plus times by Iranian proxies. And when we say Iranian proxies, we got to be clear on what that is. That's the Iraqi government that we pay. Because after the Iraqi military, we spent $2 trillion on, surrendered to ISIS, we had to go back in there in very short order and stand a military back up again. And guess who filled the breach? The Shia militias controlled by Iran did. And the Iraqi government's controlled by Iran. So they're still registering for the draft, aren't they? Like that.
The president has said that you're
نظارت‌های آژانس و ضوابط بین‌المللی در این زمینه رو قبول داریم. حادثه بسیار تلخی برای ما همه ملت ایران هست. یعنی آمریکا و صهیونیست‌ها با این کارشون عملاً شرایطی رو برای ایران به وجود آوردن برای ملت ایران که باید بگیم قلب ملت ایران رو سوزاندن. ما قلبشون رو میسوزانیم. اینا باید بدونن اینطور نیست که بزنن در هیچ عقلش نمیرسه که ملت ایران ملت رشیدن، ملت قوی هم. ملت با اراده است. هرچی اون فشار بیاره اراده ملت قوی‌تر میشه.
In the federal trial of a Pakistani man, prosecutors accuse him of plotting to assassinate American political leaders, including President Trump. He says Iran was behind it all. Alexis McAdams is outside the Brooklyn Federal Courthouse in New York City. Alexis.
אנו טייסי ונווטי חיל האוויר הישראלי עושים כעת במבנה מעל שמי טהרן הדרך לתקיפת מטרות היסטוריות. אנחנו בעיצומה של מערכה שמטרתה להסיר איום קיומי על מדינתנו. אנחנו נגיע לכל מקום, לכל אויב, עבור המדינה שלנו, הביטחון של המשפחות שלנו. ממשיכים להילחם ככל שנידרש, מסביב לשעון, ומרגישים את התמיכה שלכם כל הזמן. מאחלים לכם, אזרחי ישראל, שבת בטוחה ושקטה, ניפגש בבית.
Love you. God of you. Love you. بچه سپاس شاهزاده واقعا. شاهزاده اجازه فرمایید من اسمتون گفتم. نه خودم میبرم به جلو. اشکال نداره. خیلی ممنون. خیلی خوش اومدید. واقعا من باید هاگتون کنم. واقعا ممنونم. از زحماتتون واقعا. شنید ما هستیم. واقعا. زنده باد شاهزاده گل. یادم سپاس شاهزاده واقعا. اجازه فرمایید من اسمتون گفتم. نه خودم میبرم به جلو. اشکال نداره. خیلی ممنون. خیلی خوش اومدید. واقعا من باید هاگتون کنم. واقعا ممنونم. از زحماتتون واقعا. شنید ما هستیم. واقعا.
رژیم صهیونیستی توانایی 10 روز جنگیدن در مقیاس جنگ بزرگ را دارد. همین دولت متجاوز امریکا که بیش از 50% قدرت نظامی دنیا را دارد، توانایی 1 ماه جنگیدن در مقیاس یک جنگ بزرگ و منطقه‌ای را دارد. اینها محاسباتیه که خودشون انجام دادن و اعلام کردن. رژیم صهیونیستی
Your director of national counterterrorism, Joe Kent, he just resigned today. He said he can't support your conflict with Iran. What's your reaction to that? And did you?
Well, I read his statement. I always thought he was a nice guy, but I always thought he was weak on security, very weak on security. I didn't know him well, but I thought he seemed like a pretty nice guy. But when I read his statement, I realized that it's a good thing that he's out, because he said that Iran was not a threat. Iran was a threat. Every country realized what a threat Iran was. The question is whether or not they wanted to do something about it. And many people, many of the greatest military scholars are saying for years that presidents should have taken out Iran because they wanted a nuclear weapon. They were, if we didn't do the attack, or if, I'll go a step further, if I didn't terminate the Iran nuclear deal given to us, one of the worst deals ever made by Barack Hussein Obama. Remember when they sent Boeing 757s over there, loaded with cash, hundreds of millions of dollars? You would have been very happy. This was a wonderful, they said hundreds of millions. People forget that. Does anybody remember? Right? You remember hundreds of millions of dollars in a Boeing 757. I think they had two of them loaded. They took the seats out and they put cash. And it was so much that there wasn't a bank in Virginia, Maryland, or D.C. that had any money left. They stripped them of all their money, put it into place, sent it to Iran, almost as ransom. That's not going to happen with Trump. And nobody ever did anything about it. Nobody ever said anything about it. Can you imagine if I did that? So they've been a threat for a long time. But they've really been a threat. If I didn't terminate Obama's horrible deal that he made, the Iran nuclear deal, you would have had a nuclear war 4 years ago. You would have had nuclear holocaust, and you would have had it again if we didn't bomb the site. So when somebody is working with us that says they didn't think Iran was a threat, we don't want those people, because, and there are some people, I guess I would say that, but they're not smart people or they're not savvy people. Iran was a tremendous threat. And virtually every NATO nation, and this is the thing, if they told me it wasn't a threat, and therefore they don't want to help, but when they say it was a threat, and it was a major threat, every one of them, I think every one of them, I don't know of one that said they're not a threat, but when they say it was a threat, but we're not going to help, I think they're very foolish. You know, it's interesting. It's interesting because I could say this, that what's happening in Ukraine, we're probably in there for $400 billion. We don't spend any money anymore. They buy it from us and they pay full price. But Biden.
همیهنان عزیزم، برای آنکه ایران با سقوط جمهوری اسلامی دچار گسست در اداره کشور نشود، در ماه‌های گذشته دو کار مهم به طور همزمان در دست انجام بوده است. نخست، تدوین یک برنامه روشن برای اداره کشور در چارچوب پروژه شکوفایی ایران. دوم، شناسایی و برگزیدن زنان و مردان شایسته برای حضور در سامانه گذار و اجرای این برنامه. در این فرایند، هم‌میهنان بسیاری با تجارب ارزشمند و تخصص مورد نیاز کشورمان آمادگی خود را برای مشارکت در بازسازی کشور و خدمت به میهن اعلام کردند. این روند در چارچوب کمیته بررسی و گزینش اعضای سامانه گذار انجام شده که مدیریت آن بر عهده دکتر سعید قاسمی نژاد است. در این چارچوب طی ماه‌های اخیر افراد توانمند در داخل و خارج از کشور برای سرپرستی بخش‌های گوناگون سامانه گذار شناسایی و بررسی شده‌اند. سامانه گذار با هدایت من آماده خواهد بود تا به محض سقوط جمهوری اسلامی زمام اداره کشور را در دست گیرد و در کوتاه‌ترین زمان نظم، امنیت، آزادی و زمینه‌های رونق و شکوفایی را برای ایران فراهم سازد. پاینده ایران.
Tell me about the pins you're wearing tonight.
Well, I'm wearing a pin that I used in 2003 with the Iraq war, which was an illegal war, and we are here 23 years after with another illegal war created by Trump and Netanyahu in order with another lie, which is like to defeat the regime, but they are radicalizing the regime by their horrific actions. So that's not the reason, as it was not the reason weapons of mass destruction in 2003. So, and also the Palestine symbolism of resistance.
The last part is what gets me. You know, we're symbolizing resistance for Palestine. You people are pathetic. Genuinely, you people are pathetic. And when he was asked why he was wearing it, they're trying to dictate. He doesn't know what the hell he's talking about. He is clueless. He's up there virtue signaling. That's it. Guys, look at me. I'm moral. I'm virtuous. Pat me on the back. Help me feel good about myself. That's all this is. He doesn't give a shit about oppressed people. If he truly cared about oppressed people, he would not be not wanting us to remove the theocratic, oppressive, dictatorial, murderous regime in Iran, who recently purposely slaughtered tens of thousands of their own unarmed civilians because they were protesting against them after this regime has run this country or that country into the ground. That's why I don't take these people seriously. That's why they make me want to throw up in my mouth. We stand against oppression. But if you do something about the oppressive, theocratic, dictatorial regime in Iran, then no wars, guys. We want to see those people continue to be oppressed and murdered by that regime. There's no way you can truly be an informed person with a decent moral code and stand for people in Palestine, but not people in Iran. Unless you are on the side of the Palestinians who want to erase the state of Israel, and Iran is helping with that. So it's really about fighting and destroying the state of Israel compared to actually standing with oppressed people. I don't know if he's that far. I feel like that's giving him a little bit too much credit. I just think he's a useful idiot. And he's doing what's trendy and cool in the left-wing circles, and that's to be ignorant and stand with Palestine and stand against oppression, but not actually want us to do anything about oppressed people or do anything to help oppressed people. Because right now, we are actively in Iran destroying an oppressive regime, and somehow he's against it, but he stands against oppression. Make it make sense. Like I said, these people make me want to throw up in my mouth. Anyway, that's all I've got for now. By the way, I'm wearing my brand. This is called Different right here. If you want a nice, cozy hoodie, this is a great option. We have it in this red here, a black, and a cream. You can go to dfrint.com. That's dfrint.com.
عاشق صداتونم.
عاشق صداتونم. بزنید که خوب میزنید. جان عاشق صداتونم. عاشق صداتونم. بزنید که خوب میزنید. جان
Let me just ask you one last question, because he called it 60 years ago. You referred to what a war with Iran would do to the United States, and I don't know that a lot of people in this country fully understand what Iran is as a nation state. It's not Afghanistan. What do you think the immediate and then longer term effects of a war with Iran would be on the United States?
Immediately, it would be very bloody. I have no doubt that we could probably defeat some of their air defense and go in there and have another shock and awe campaign. But again, like we saw how the shock and awe campaign in Iraq really didn't actually work in the long run. So I have no doubt that we'd have some immediate results that people would cheer about here in the United States. But Iran, Persia, has always been an empire. It's been around longer than any of the other players in the modern Middle East right now, and they are not going anywhere. And right now, Iran has a lot of internal problem. They have a lot of internal strife with the Ayatollah, and that government's only been in power since 1979. But again, if we start conducting strikes in Iran, everyone in Iran will rally around their leader, and they will become even more revolutionary. And then we will have Iranian proxies throughout the entire region that will be conducting attacks just like we had in Jordan. And really, in the long term, Tucker, the axis that has been built really since Putin invaded Russia, and we decided that since
כן, מגי, במקביל למלחמה מול ישראל וארצות הברית, אנחנו חושפים הערב שבאיראן מתנהל מאבק כוחות פנימי במשטר שמאיים על שלמותו. על פי מקורות המקורבים במשמרות המהפכה, מאז חיסולו של חמינאי האב, המערכת האיראנית מחולקת לשני מחנות ברורים. מצד אחד מחנה מוצ'טבה חמינאי, ומהצד השני המחנה של עלי לארג'אני, יושב ראש המועצה לביטחון לאומי, ומי שנחשב למנהיג בפועל. מאחורי מוצ'טבה ניצבת קבוצה חזקה מאוד בממסד הביטחוני. בראשם אחמד ויידי, המפקד החדש של משמרות המהפכה, מוחמד בארר אליבאף, יושב ראש הפרלמנט האיראני, ובכירים נוספים. כולם אנשים שמזוהים עם הקו הקשוח של המשטר ועם משמרות המהפכה. אליבאף, שבעבר היה קרוב למחנה של אריג'אני, עבר לצד של מוצ'טבה, לא מתוך אידיאולוגיה, אלא מתוך הבנה פשוטה. מי ששולט באמת באיראן הם משמרות המהפכה. ומנגד עומד, כאמור, המחנה של עלי לארג'אני ואחיו, סאדק לארג'אני, שהיה מועמד בולט לרשת את המנהיג העליון שחוסל. עלי, אחיו, דחף לזה המון, כאמור, ללא הצלחה. במונחים איראנים, לארג'אני נחשב דמות מתונה ופרגמטית יותר. בתוך המשטר עצמו יש מי שחוששים, שאם יגיע לעמדת כוח, הוא עלול ללכת להסכם עם ארצות הברית. יריביו טוענים שהוא אוהב את החיים הטובים, שהוא ומשפחתו צברו את עונם דרך שחיתויות. לארג'אני יהיה מוכן להתפשר כדי לשמור על מעמדו הבכיר. במחנה של מוצ'טבה זיהו את הסכנה, לכן כבר עכשיו הכינו על האחים לארג'אני תיק מפליל, בניסיון להרחיקם ממוקדי הכוח, אולי דרך הדחה, אולי להעמידם לדין ומשם לכלא, ואולי אפילו לחסל אותם. כנראה שהם ינקטו צעדים ראשונים כנגד סאדק, מי שיכול להוות איום על מוצ'טבה. לארג'אני כמובן לא מחכה וכבר מכין את המהלכים נגדם. כך או כך, מאחורי הקלעים מתחולל דרמה של ממש. בסופו של דבר שיכריעו את הקרב הזה משמרות המהפכה. אם איראן עלולה להפוך למדינה שבה הצבא והביטחון שולטים בכל, והמערכה הפוליטית נדחקת לשוליים. איראן של משמרות המהפכה תהיה מדינה שהמודל שלה דומה לצפון קוריאה.
You said at the press conference the other day, you said yourself that if there was an attack on this embassy, that you would destroy the hostages. Could you really do that?
Yes, we mean it.
Could you personally lift up a gun,
Yes.
put it to the head of one of these people and kill him?
Yes.
من رفته اونجا درس بخونه. حالا رفته چیکار کنم؟ رفته دکتراشو میگیره، با ویزای دانشجویی هم رفته. هر روز عکسشو میندازم. چه هزینه ای ما باید بدیم؟ با زن و بچه رفته، 32 سالش بوده. عین شماها، عین شما. چه فرقی میکنه؟ چه فرقی میکنه؟ پذیرش گرفته، برای درس رفته، با ویزای دانشجویی هم رفته و داره درسشو میخونه. این هم یکی از اون مسائل نفرت پراکنیه که کار طراحی سلطنت بود. از دیوار به سفارت رفتی بالا، بچه تو فرستادی، بچه ها.
You said at the press conference the other day, you said yourself that if there was an attack on this embassy, that you would...
I'm standing in Bet Shemesh, and I need you to understand what this sentence means. Because this is not some war zone in a distant country that you see on the news and you scroll past it. This is a suburban city, 18 miles from Jerusalem. Families live here, kids played here, and 1 week ago, on a Sunday afternoon, an Iranian ballistic missile came down right here where I'm standing. 9 people were killed. Just look at what one ballistic missile caused to this neighborhood. These are not military barracks. These are homes, or they were. That twisted metal, that was someone's front door. Those shattered pieces of concrete, that was someone's ceiling. Now, I want to bring you into something that international media often miss. Because when you read missile strike kills 9, I get it. We're all exhausted by the numbers and your brain automatically files it away. Middle East, conflict, move on. But let me tell you what was the building right there behind me, where the missile hit. It was the synagogue. And let me tell you what was underneath that synagogue, a place of worship, a communal bomb shelter, the kind of place people are told to run to, where you're supposed to be safe. Families had gone underground. They followed every instruction, and the missile found them anyway, because it was carrying half a ton of explosives. And the shelter's roof came down on top of them. Among the dead, a mother and a daughter, Sarah Elimelech and Ronit Elimelech, a man named Oren Katz, siblings, Sarah, Yaakov, and Avigail Biton. These are not symbols. They were people.
But in this case, here's why it's such a big deal, this resolution in the Security Council by all of our Gulf allies today. Number one, a lot of these Gulf nations historically have kind of been in a neutral position when it comes to Iran. Qatar, for example, shares a huge gas field for them. Well, today they are unified. They are standing together. There's no disagreement amongst them. And they are publicly on the world stage condemning Iran and calling them out for the indiscriminate firing in all direction of hotels, resorts, ports, airports. This strategy Iran has of trying to sow chaos and shake our allies and even shake us in Israel has absolutely backfired. You are seeing the Abraham Accords coalition standing strong and fighting back. And then another piece to that, Sean, was Guess where Iran and guess where Russia and China were today? China and Russia abstained. They backed away. They didn't stand with Iran when it really came down to it, especially with the Gulf Arabs standing strong.
Internally.
The president seemed to indicate yesterday that he had not been briefed on the potential that Iran might strike out at its neighbors or try to shut down the Strait of Hormuz. Is that conceivable to you, that he would not have been briefed on those potential repercussions?
Well, I know for a fact that he was aware of those potentials. I raised the option of regime change in Iran several times during the time I was National Security Advisor. I never persuaded the president to adopt that position. And one reason was that others had different views. And every time I raised it, they raised a whole long list of difficulties that are entailed by a regime change campaign. And that if you're going to embark on it, you better have answers to them. And certainly closing the Strait of Hormuz was always one of them. And so were attacks on the Gulf Arab states, particularly their oil infrastructure. So he knew about it in his first term. I find it hard to believe that he forgot about it in the intervening years.
War is proceeding very, very strongly. We're doing very, very well. Iran, knocking the hell out of them, and you have to do that. We can't let them have a nuclear weapon. They were 2 weeks away, in my opinion, 2 weeks away from having a nuclear weapon. If those beautiful, magnificent machines, those B-2 bombers, if they didn't do their job 7 or 8 months ago, they would have had a nuclear weapon, and there would have been no talking to them, no talking at all. They would have used it very gladly, very happily. And you sort of see that by the fact that they were sending missiles, ballistic missiles, powerful missiles to all of their neighbors. And for the most part, they were supposed to be somewhat friendly with their neighbors. They were going to blow the hell out of them. And that was going to be the Middle East, between Israel, the Middle East, and Europe would have been there, and we would have been there. There would have been no stopping. We did a good job, and a lot of people appreciated it. A lot of presidents know they should have done it. It was 47 years of terror. Every time you see somebody with no legs, no arms, a face that's been really so badly.
I never said that we are going to make bombs. I said that we have 440 kilos of 60% enriched material, and that was not a secret. That is what is mentioned in the reports of the IAEA. So I said that, look, this is mentioned in the report. This, if enriched more, can be good enough for 10 bombs, as your own experts claims. So we are ready to give them up, to give them away. We are ready to dilute them, to downblend them into lower degrees. And by saying that, I wanted to say that the concession that we are making is really big. But how they have interpreted that, I don't know. Maybe because the lack of enough knowledge, maybe because of their intentions to justify, as I said, the act of aggression, which cannot be justified. I hope that the true story of what happened on 26 February in Geneva would become known to the people soon.
What is the second phase of Operation Epic Fury? It starts with a B-2 stealth bomber dropping a massive bunker buster bomb on a target nestled in the Alborz Mountains surrounding Tehran. The target was chosen for a specific reason. Buried deep beneath the mountains, Iran has constructed a labyrinth of multi-layered underground tunnels. They built this vast network to hide their crown jewel, a massive arsenal of ballistic missiles. Their strategy is simple but deadly. Emerge from these hidden bunkers to ambush American jets when they least expect it. So how do you counter a threat buried that deep? You use a highly surgical weapon designed to pierce straight through thick layers of reinforced concrete. With just a dozen of these bunker busters, the military can wipe out an entire underground missile city in a single devastating strike. What is Phase 2 of Operation Epic Fury? 7 days of
Here's a bit of the reaction. Here's a combination of some voices on that put together. Watch this.
It's becoming clear all the time, frankly, that the Trump administration was not prepared for this war to last.
Now, are we any closer to finding out what the plan is here?
Here we find ourselves again in a situation where we could actually win every single battle and still lose the war.
So this is also sort of classic Brit. You know, you could go back, I guess, to Vietnam and talk about how wars are covered and whether or not it's accurate or inaccurate in terms of the picture that people are getting across the country. What's your take?
Well, for a moment, Martha, let's turn the situation around and assume a situation in which the United States is under attack from a major enemy. And that enemy is ranging freely over our skies with no resistance, bombing at will, sending missiles at will, attacking our vessels, attacking our ballistic missile systems, attacking our aircraft at will. That they have wiped out, they've killed the president and wiped out his cabinet, and countless officials in the echelons below. And we have responded as the United States by shutting off a major waterway that we need for our economy. Yes, it harms other economies as well. Do you think anyone would be saying that this is, as Walter Russell Mead put it today, a stalemate? I don't think so.
Yeah. No.
The IC continues to assess that Iran is not building a nuclear weapon, and Supreme Leader Khamenei has not authorized the nuclear weapons program that he suspended in 2003. The IC continues to monitor closely if Tehran decides to reauthorize its nuclear weapons program.
Regime. Well, the United States and Israel have knocked out so many people at the top, working their way down the list, as it were. Is there not a danger that eventually there'll have to be talks with somebody, but there won't be anybody with any authority left in Tehran, and they may be more extreme than the people at the top? In other words, who in the end is Donald Trump going to talk to?
Well, I think the way the regime will collapse is that the disagreements among whoever remains in the leadership will spread, and it will just collapse because so many of them will say this ship is going down and we don't want to go down with it. I think we're making a mistake, though, in not working more with the opposition, providing them with resources, assistance,
בדיוק זאת השורה, רעידת אדמה של ממש באיראן לאחר החיסולים הלילה. אנחנו מפרסמים שהנשיא פזשקיאן שוקל להתפטר מתפקידו. מוקדם יותר שוחחתי עם גורמים בסביבתו של פזשקיאן והם אמרו לי כך: ישנו זעם חריג מצד הנשיא על משמרות המהפכה. ההתנהלות שלהם נתפסת כמופקרת ופזשקיאן אף טוען כי הם לא שמרו על אל-עריג'אני כנדרש. לא מדובר רק בכשל אלא במהלך מכוון שנועד להוביל לחיסולו. בעקבות החיסול פזשקיאן שוקל להתפטר והוא אף ביקש להיפגש עם המנהיג העליון מוצ'טבה כדי להציג בפניו את הדברים, אך נהנה כי בשלב הזה פגישה כזו אינה אפשרית. מגי, הדברים שאני מביא הערב, הם מתחברים יותר מכל החשיפה שהבאנו בשבוע שעבר על המחלוקת במשטר האיראני. משמרות המהפכה נגד עליל אל-עריג'אני, להזכירכם, משמרות המהפכה חשפנו כאן שכבר הכינו תיק חיסול על אותו אל-עריג'אני ועל אחיו סדק, אז לא מן הנמנע שמשמרות המהפכה מאושרים מאוד מהחיסול היום של אל-עריג'אני, ואפשר להגיד היום ב100%. משמרות המהפכה שולטים באיראן, מוצ'טבה חמינאי, המנהיג העליון, הוא הבובה של משמרות המהפכה. איראן עוברת שלטון צבאי וקיצוני שכנראה לא ייכנע לעולם עד למהפכה במדינה שאותם יובילו האזרחים שאנחנו מקווים כבר היום מהערב, והעזרה כנראה תגיע מישראל ומארצות הברית.
Yes, we are going to see the end of Hezbollah because this time Israel is going to make sure it's going to end Hezbollah because Israel realized it gave the opportunity to the Lebanese government. The Lebanese government was too weak to disarm Hezbollah, so Israel had to take matters into its own hand. And they are succeeding and they are attacking them. And Hezbollah is fighting very hard. They are running through all their weapons, through their ammunition, through their missiles. But Israel will stay after them until they are completely demolished. And the good news is that the Lebanese government right now realized that the whole country is going to get destroyed unless they stand up, either work with Israel. They are even working. They even reached out to Joulani, the president of Syria, because, you know, he's the baby child of ISIS and Al-Qaeda, and he despises the Shiite of Lebanon. So they're going to bring in his troop even to assist the Lebanese in crushing Hezbollah. So I believe the end is near. We are in the thick of it right now. It doesn't look that way, but they will end Hezbollah. And when that happens, it's going to be amazing for Lebanon.
Before we dismantle the sequence, we need to respect the wall. Iran did not build a simple air defense network. Iran built a system, and systems are harder to kill than weapons. Start with the crown jewel, the Bavar 373, often compared to Russia's S-400. Here's what that means if you are an American pilot flying toward Iran. The system's Mirage 4 search radar sees you at 240 nautical miles, roughly the distance from New York to Washington. While you are still that far out, the fire control radar has already locked on. The Siyad 4B interceptor launches. It reaches beyond 160 nautical miles and can kill at altitudes exceeding 100,000 feet, higher than a U-2 spy plane flies. You are dead before you cross the coast. That is what the Bavar was designed to do, and Iran did not stop there. Below the Bavar 373 umbrella sits the third Khordad, the Mersad, the Rad, each covering a different altitude, a different frequency, a different engagement envelope. Overlapping fields of fire, redundant communications, hardened command posts buried under mountains. 40 years of preparation. 40 years of studying how America dismantled Iraq. 40 years of engineering a system specifically designed to deny American aircraft access to Iranian airspace. Respect that. Because if you do not understand the strength of what fell, you will never understand the elegance of how it was broken. The sequence that broke Iran's air defense followed 4 phases. Each one created the conditions for the next. Reverse any 2 steps and the wall holds. Skip 1 and the whole chain fails. So how did we sequence it? In military doctrine, phase 0 is the shaping phase, operations that happen before the first shot is fired. It is not phase 1 because it is not combat. It is what makes combat possible. Before the first missile left a launch cell, something invisible crossed into Iran's digital infrastructure. U.S. Cyber Command and Space Command were what the Pentagon later called the first movers, layering non-kinetic effects before a single warhead flew. The details are classified. We do not know the attack vectors. We do not know the specific malware, if any was used. And we do not need to, because knowing the method changes nothing about the physics that follows. What we know is the result. NetBlocks, the independent internet monitoring organization, confirmed that Iran's national connectivity collapsed to 4% of normal levels. Whether that blackout was triggered by American cyber weapons or deliberately cut by the Iranian regime as a defensive measure, the effect was identical. Command lost signal. Cut the nerves, not the muscles. The radars were still standing. The missile batteries were still loaded. The commanders were still at their posts. But nobody could coordinate with anybody. A battery commander watching contacts on his radar had no way to confirm whether they were hostile, friendly, or decoys, because the communications link to his sector command was gone. He could see, he could shoot, he could not ask anyone whether he should. An air defense network without communications is not a network. It is a collection of isolated batteries, each making decisions alone. Iran's fighter jets, aging F-14s, MiG-29s, Su-24s, never left the ground. Without communications, no scramble order reached the pilots. Without functioning runways, no scramble order mattered.
البته پرقدرت تکرار می‌کنیم. هرگز اجازه نمی‌دهیم.
The assassination of the supreme leader of the Islamic
I'm philosophically quite close to the people of Iran. All right. And the mass of the people, this is what you keep not understanding, is the mass of the people